G'day guys and gal. Although all the crazy wars happening in the current setting of Warhammer 40k seem crazy and massive, they are actually some of the smallest and least significant the galaxy has ever faced. 10,000 years prior, during the Horus Heresy, worlds were getting deleted on the daily. Entire solar systems had merged with hell, spawning impossibly massive structures, and hundreds of thousands of space marines were dying. Roll that back a few more thousand years and we have the Men of Iron uprising, where machines were able to take bites in time and space, literally destroying pieces of reality. But that too pales in comparison to the War in Heaven, a galaxy-spanning superwar between gods and their minions that happened over 60 million years ago. The Catan, gods of reality, took on the old ones, the gods of the warp. The galaxy was forever altered by this conflict, with most issues in the current setting being traceable back to that war. It's also the war that gave us the Eldar, the Necrons, and the topic of today's video, the Orcs. However, in the War in Heaven, they were known as the Krorks, significantly more powerful and significantly girthier. Before we get started, it is Orktober and I wanted to do something special. Every major mini release this month will be Orc related, and I wanted to start by bringing back the true scale King Orc. The major mini King Orc that is usually available is actually tiny compared to their true size. In reality, they are 12 meters tall, or 40 foot if you use that kind of measurement. Here is a helpful image to show the size difference between a Space Marine and a King Orc. We did a limited run of these a few years ago and they instantly sold out, so I'll give you another chance to pick up a lore-friendly, gigantic King Orc, so maybe you can make a War in Heaven diorama or something out of it, or just play it as a Gargan proxy. As these are hard as hell to print and handle, we'll only be doing a limited run of them once again, so if you wanted to pick up a Gigaboy, then now is your only chance. While you're at it, why not grab the Orc Demon Killer as well? Finish the collection, you know. Link is below. Today we'll go over just how powerful a Krork is really, using clues in the lore as a reference. We'll also discuss how they devolved from their 12 meter tall majesty to the current setting's favorite punching bags. Let's get into it. The Orcs were never meant to exist and were only created out of pure desperation. See, when the War in Heaven kicked off, the Eldar were mighty, but they lacked the durability and brawn to be able to hold back the endless tides of the undying Necrons. So the old ones, in their desperation, created the Krorks, creatures who could rapidly reproduce into almost any setting, were empowered by war, instinctively knew how to fight and create weapons, and were just insane on the battlefield. The Eldar were made to be warriors, but also to be able to have a society and live peacefully. The Krorks were made with the attitude of, these guys will likely fuck up the galaxy, but we need to stop the Catan and we can deal with the Krorks later. As such, legions of these 12 meter tall Goliaths took to the field of battle, helping out the forces of the old ones. However, they still weren't enough to crush the Necrons. I don't need to get into a full War in Heaven retelling, I already have a video for that, but basically they were made to stand and fight on battlefields where gods also fought. Now the lore doesn't dive too deep into scenes from the War in Heaven. We don't actually see the Krorks fight or what they were truly capable of, but that doesn't mean we can't use the powers of virginity to take bits and hints from the lore to create a pretty comprehensive overview. Trizin has a Krork in his museum which gives us a lot of the lore regarding it. It stands 12 meters tall and wears crude but extremely advanced battle plate. Fabius Bile, a mad genius, remarks that the battle plate is more advanced than his own power armor, despite how much he would have modified and improved his own war plate over the years. Due to the wah effect, it's theorized that if this Krork escaped Trizin's museum, it would create another War of the Beast situation, where the Orcs would rise up and become the dominant force in the galaxy due to the extreme wah energy emanating from the Krork. After all, during the War in the Beast, the prime Orc war bosses were 10 meters tall, 2 meters shorter than this Krork, with them being on the cusp of becoming Krorks, and their wah energy was obscene, like it literally increased the size and intelligence of all Orcs across the galaxy. So yeah, better keep that one locked up. Some people think that Trizin's Krork may be an especially large specimen, like a war boss, with normal Krorks being between 6 to 10 meters, but there is nothing in the lore that suggests this. If this indeed was an abnormally large war boss Krork, then Trizin likely would have also captured a few of his underlings to complete the exhibition. If anything, I believe Krork war bosses would be even larger. After all, if the beasts were 10 meters and not quite Krorks, then no Krork would be under 10 meters. I believe Trizin's Krork was pretty stock standard and was just a case of him getting his hands on whatever he could. Okay, so there's two good ways we can analyze how powerful Krorks were. Firstly, by looking at what they fought against during the War in Heaven, who beat them and who they beat, etc. Then we could also look at the power of the beasts, giving us a low reference point to go from as they weren't too far off Krorks. So the War in Heaven was the Necrons at the peak of their empire, and the Eldar also at their peak with absolutely no psychic restrictions. For reference, all Eldar are heavily nerfed in the current setting as they have to restrict their Psyker powers, otherwise Slaanesh will get horny for them and eat their ass. Psykers like Eldrad, who are already insanely powerful, would have been many times more powerful, potentially on par with Magnus or the Emperor, and that would be their run-of-the-mill Psykers. So imagine a battlefield with thousands of Magnuses on it, taking on a united Necron force guided by near-planet-sized uncharted Catan. The Krorks were specifically designed to keep up with both of these warrior types. The Eldar also had their Khainite warriors who were obscenely gifted in combat combat who could go toe-to-toe with Krorks in 1v1. I imagine these Knight warriors would be slightly better than Phoenix Lords, who are more or less the Primarchs of the Elder. So based off this, Krorks have the armor, firepower, and size of a knight, could throw hands with Necron legions of all sizes, and I imagine they also would have been pretty fast. I have no doubt a Krork would be able to take on anything short of a Titan, and who knows, maybe with their extra speed, a Titan could be on their menu. However, to give us something a bit more concrete, let's look at the War of the Beast to give us some better comparisons. After all, the War in Heaven is submerged in legend and myth, with the lore itself being confusing as fuck, but the War of the Beast was written with character perspectives, so it's more like a primary source. The Beast was so powerful that Vulcan himself had to return to lead the Imperium when the two fought. The Beast was specifically stated to be stronger than Vulcan. Makes sense, you've got a 14-foot tall Primarch versus a 32-foot tall massive monster. Vulcan only managed to kill the Beast by throwing them into a vat of raw War energy, killing them both and officially kicking Vulcan out of the setting. The fuck thing was that wasn't even the main beast, or Prime Orc as they were called. There was more, and the others were even bigger and stronger, and they too were not even Krorks. So when I've said in the past that each Krork made a Primarch look like a Space Marine, this is what I meant. Vulcan is also one of the strongest Primarchs, and he also can't technically die, so Primarchs like Guilliman would get flattened into paste. So we can comfortably say that a Krork is more powerful than a Primarch. Do they have any weaknesses? Well, yes. I believe as they were made to fight the Necrons and the Catan, who never use warp powers, the Old Ones engineered them to be more susceptible to warp-based attacks as a failsafe. That way, if the Old Ones won the war in Heaven, it wouldn't be too hard to cull the Krorks. This is actually exactly what happened. After the Necrons overthrew the Catan and then went into hibernation, the Elder and the Krorks remained the two most powerful factions in the galaxy, since the Old Ones were now extinct. The Krorks wanted to keep fighting as that is what they were bred for. The Elder just wanted peace, so the two races, previously allies, fought each other. The Eldar won, and from what I can tell it wasn't close. Their psychic power would have popped the Krorks' brains like balloons, while their significantly more advanced spacecraft would have torn up Krorks from orbit and annihilated their ships. After all, even a Titan has little chance to survive a direct orbitable strike. The Krorks would be more than killable with orbitable lasers. This weakness to the warp is further evidenced by how the Imperium defeated the beasts. They introduced a blank into the Orc super Wah of the beasts, creating a negative feedback effect that did weird shit and made the Wah implode, blowing up all the beasts' heads. It seems that the closer to becoming a Krork an Orc gets, the more unstable its Wah energy and the easier it is to kill them with warp spaghetti. Modern day Orcs don't seem to have this weakness. Like sure, Psychers kill them regularly, but I can't recall any scenes where normal Orc heads are getting popcorned. It always requires direct combat to get the job done. This ties into my theory of Krork devolution. We all know the Krorks devolved, it's pretty obvious. They started as 40-foot tall Goliaths and are now 7 feet, with the largest getting to around 20 feet in extremely rare situations. Most people say this was caused by the Elder culling them in dishonorable combat, such as orbitable lasers or psychic energy. It diminished their Wah and forced them to devolve. But there actually might be another element to it. Their devolution could have actually been evolution in a similar way to how insects, dinosaurs, and mammals used to be massive but now shrunk. If Krorks were vulnerable to psychic attacks and also incredibly easy to find due to their Wah energy they gave off, then a reduction in the Orcs' ability to absorb the Wah may have made them less vulnerable to psychic attacks as well as harder to find. Also, they would have become less of a threat, so the Elder stopped hunting them. Evolution is changing to adapt to new pressures. The new pressure was the Eldar. The evolution was to become less obvious and threatening. That's just my theory, but I love it because it basically means the Orcs are the ultimate failsafe. If the Necrons take over the galaxy, then the Orcs will ascend to become Krorks to combat them, as Necrons cannot use warp powers, hence cannot exploit their weaknesses. If the Eldar or another psychic race are winning, then the Orcs remain a low-key threat, never evolving into Krorks. Yep, that's my new headcanon. The old ones were smart as fuck. So how powerful are Krorks actually? Very, very, very powerful in the right context. Physically, there is nothing living that can match them in the current setting. They would flatten Primarchs, rip apart Tyranid Biotitans, outgun almost anything short of a Warlord Titan, and the collective Wah power would greatly strengthen the Orcs. However, would the release of Trazin's Krork spell victory for the Orcs? Well, not necessarily. Yes, it would throw a spanner in the works, disrupt a few plans, and could even justify a book or two. However, if my theory regarding Krork's vulnerability to the warp is correct, it would only take a cabal of sorcerers or psychers, either from the Eldar, Imperium, or Chaos, to take the Krork down. Not to mention that if he was caught out in the open, then a squad of Titans backed up by Shadow Swords and other Titan-killing ordnance would be able to finish the job. Or, you know, just a big orbitable strike. Krorks aren't gods. They were foot soldiers designed to fight alongside gods, which while itself is wildly impressive, that doesn't make them an instant win for the Orcs. However, yes, it would be fucking awesome to see a Krork in the setting. Don't be a pussy, GW, just do it. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up the King Orc in True Scale, or any major mini that tickles your pickle. Hit the subscribe button and hit the real subscribe button for more October content. Join the Discord for more memes and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.